Hi everybody, I'm Alex von Soos. I'm your host today or tonight, depending on where you're watching. And this is Songwriting Sunday Bootcamp, where we will be talking about all things songwriting, from melodies to chords to arrangement, a little bit of production, and of course today's theme, which is lyrics. And as today happens to be Valentine's Day, we're going to look at some love songs. And of course, with love songs, there are all sorts of love songs. There may be songs where people at the start of the relationship or maybe at the end of the relationship. So, not wanting to be too cynical on a day like today, but when you think about it, in terms of love songs, you have a sort of spectrum where you start here, so boy meets girl, or I suppose it could be boy meets boy, girl meets girl, whatever permutation you like. And then they get together and everything is working really well. And then next thing is the first cracks are starting to appear, so hopefully not on a day like today. And then what happens? They break up. And after they've broken up, it's either I miss you so much, please come back to me, or I'm so glad you're out of my life, I never want to see you again. So in a nutshell, those are the types of lyrics, the types of subjects that many songwriters write about when they write love songs. So today we're going to look at all sorts of different angles that we can pursue when we write love songs, and we're also going to look at some other subject matters as well, some other themes, so that it's not all about the one thing. Because some of you may not like love songs or like writing love songs. They may want to write about something else, right? So because not every song has to be about relationships. So in terms of housekeeping, it depends on, again, when you're watching it. Maybe you're watching a replay, but if you are watching live, then you can use the chat function and I'll be monitoring that. And that way you can ask questions, and that we can make things a little bit more interactive, and this way we can make it a little bit less like a lecture in a classroom. But having said that, I've got lots of material for you. So if you're too shy to ask questions, then that's fine as well. But please feel welcome to contribute in any way you'd like. So I think what I'd like to start out with today is a little bit of groundwork. And I have developed, over the years of teaching songwriting, I've developed a formula which encompasses the many elements that we need to have a chance of having a hit song. That was quite convoluted but precise, which is important because obviously nobody can just snap their fingers and have a hit song like that. So lots of things need to align, and we're going to focus on different parts of that formula from time to time. And today, as our main theme is lyrics, we're going to start with that, and we're also going to repeat this maybe later on in the show or at other points later on in the show cycle, because these sort of things are very beneficial, and they're also fundamental, which means if you know these simple things, then you have a much better chance of writing great songs. But let me assure you, so they are simple, but there are many of them. So many rules, many things that we need to keep in mind. And therefore, it's not an easy thing. You may have seen Facebook ads floating around with songwriting is easy and anybody can do it or learn it in just a few minutes. I do not believe in that at all. I think that songwriting is hard, but it can be learned and you can improve if you want to put in, if you're prepared to put in the time. And that is really important. You need to want to do it at all times, evenings, weekends, it doesn't matter. And so I'm hoping that those of you who are watching are as serious and as ambitious about songwriting as I am. If you are just trying to get your feet wet, so to speak, that's fine as well. So if you're going to enjoy the way we are going to analyze hit songs, so that may still be enjoyable. But if you want to be able to write lyrics like those master writers, then you're going to have to be prepared to put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, and it's going to be fun though. I can't think of anything more rewarding than having written a great song, and maybe even a great song that's also successful commercially. So that's where I come from. I'm a commercial songwriter. I've had number ones in the UK and in Korea, and many releases all around the world. And that's what I like. I like writing 3.5 or 4 minute songs that get to the point and have a message and have something to say, are tightly written. So that's what's going to be the focus of this episode and the next few weeks as well. Just to write songs that are, I wouldn't say watertight, but songs that don't have too many weaknesses, to make it easier for the listener to like it, or what we all want, to fall in love with our song. So let's start. I've got, as I said, I've got a little formula and we have one element of it. So let me see whether this works. I've got tons of apps going, and I'm hoping that everything works as it worked in the tests. You know what it's like if you're in a band, if you're a musician. If the dress rehearsal goes really well, then you know what that means for the show proper. But we're just going to be optimistic and hope that nothing is going to explode and that everything is going to go smoothly. So let me try and switch this over to this formula. Look at that. It worked first time. I'm so happy. And as you can see, the formula says ML, which is short for moving lyrics. We just said that we want our listener to fall in love with our music, with our songs. And the lyrics are very important for that, because people may be dancing along to the groove, to the beat that you've programmed, or they may be singing along to the melody without even noticing it. But in general, real fans will fall in love with the lyrics, with the message of the lyrics and the words themselves. So that's why we're starting this bootcamp this Sunday show with lyrics. And as far as those bullet points you can see on the screen, as far as those go, obviously the first one is the most important, in a unique title, and a unique title that comes with a compelling concept. So I'm going to explain those a little bit more. Maybe we can start with a title, because a lot of times the listener will, or the viewer will not get past the title, because if they don't get hooked by the title, then they may not even listen to the whole song. So you can think about this both in terms of professional listeners, like say A&R people or curators of Spotify playlists, or maybe music supervisors if you are into looking to get what is called sync placements for your music in adverts or TV or in Hollywood. And those people are very busy. So basically they're looking for reasons not to have to listen to your music. Now, for those of you who haven't been in the music business for a long time, that may sound terribly cynical, but it's not really. It's just common sense. They get bombarded with tracks, with links, with requests to just have a quick listen all day, And so they need to decide quickly what they want to pursue and what they don't want to listen to further. And when you have a title that explodes off the page, that is dynamic and exciting, then you have a much better chance of hooking the listener in and convince them to give your music a chance. So we just said exciting and dynamic, so things with movement. Later on, we're going to look at a song called Firework. That is a great title, or maybe Radioactive, or Firestarter, another word with fire. Anything that is exciting and that has a visual element to it. Now, of course, not all songs have that, but it's a good start. And remember, as aspiring songwriters, which I suppose we all are, we have to make sure that our songs are maybe a little bit better, or not better, but at least more exciting than songs that are already out there. So if I'm Pharrell Williams and I have a song called, I don't know, I Need You, then that's not so much of a problem because people are going to listen to his song anyway, right? But if we are aspiring songwriters on our way up, then we have to do a little bit better than that, because we're not going to have the benefit of the track record that those superstars have. So, unique title that people haven't heard a million times before. And then the other thing you can see on the screen is a compelling concept. Now, this is the angle. We just talked about the different angles in love songs, and of course they were very broad categories. Those categories in themselves weren't very exciting, but within that you have to find a very specific angle. So for example, if you're writing a breakup song, maybe just writing a general breakup song saying I miss you and I need you and please come back to me, and have that sort of thing be the title like we just said. Why not write maybe about the very first minute after the breakup? So somebody's put down the phone, or these days people do it via WhatsApp or text message. And so after the last message has gone, or the phone has gone down, or maybe that person who dumped you was decent enough to do that in person. So anyway, so now you know things are not going to be the same. And what is it you do now? What are the first thoughts that are racing through your head at that moment? So that would be something interesting to write about. So maybe we'd call it minute one, or something like that. That would be much, much more interesting to the general public and to professional listeners than writing, well, I miss you, I need you, or please come back, right? So next thing you can see on the screen is the question, so what? Now, this is a brutal question. Again, today is Valentine's Day, so I hope I'm not going to include too many cynical elements or negative elements. But the question, so what, is important because there are two reasons why your listener or viewer may ask that question, so what? One is they're not interested in the subject matter, right? They cannot relate to it. It's not universal enough. So for example, if I write about, say, motorcycle maintenance, now that may be very interesting about bikers and they can relate to it, but most people aren't bikers, and so therefore to them it doesn't really matter. It doesn't move them, it doesn't touch them. Quite apart from the fact, of course, that writing about spanners and all that kind of thing, and screws and bolts is not going to be very dramatic and emotional, right? When you look a little bit further down on this screen, you can say a personal, believable and emotional tone. So these kind of words that move the listener just by the power of the words without even knowing the full story. And so that is important as well. And that brings us to that question, so what? If the lyric in the title and the concept, if they don't move the listener, then they will just say, so what? Next, right? Because as we know, today the skip button is never very far away, and people will do that within 10 seconds, or maybe 20 or 30 seconds if you're lucky. People will press the skip button, and yes, that'll be that, right? That'll be it. The chance that your song had of being listened to has gone. And the other reason why people may say, so what, is because people have heard it a million times before. We talked about the I miss you, I need you, that kind of thing. But also think about the many dance songs that say, let's get ready, it's Saturday night, let's go out, DJ, turn the music up, put our hands up to the sky, that sort of thing, right? How cliched is that? So especially as aspiring songwriters, we never want to write stuff like that, right? We have to be very careful, because the listener is just going to say, so what, we've heard this 1,000 times before, and therefore we don't need it from songwriter X, who we don't have any connection with anyway. Right, that rant is over, but that is the problem that many songwriters have, or probably most songwriters have. They don't write about stuff that is interesting to a lot of people, and when they do, they write in a way that is cliched and hackneyed and all of those things, and that is a shame, because a lot of the time they actually do have something to say, and maybe they write some great melodies and chords, and they can program some great beats or play their instruments really well. But if the lyrics don't connect with the listener, if the lyrics leave the listener cold, leading to the question, so what, then that is a really difficult thing. So what else have we got? Professional natural rhymes and imagery. Well, this is important, and maybe at some point we're going to talk about those things as well. Although I think in this show we're going to be talking more about general principles, not going to be going into too much detail. But anyway, so it's important not to use too much rhyming, not too little, and we will see a little bit later what happens if you don't use any rhyming at all. And then it's also important to follow professional protocol, and that's basically, you start out with a certain set of rhymes, also called the rhyme scheme, in verse 1, and then you repeat that in verse 2, because that's what most people do, and so the listener will feel comfortable within your song, which is very important. I just said we want something new, of course. We want to excite the listener, but we also want our listener to feel comfortable. So what we're going to look at next is the last thing on our sheet here, and it's called at least one memorable word or line. And what I mean by that is that even if our lyric isn't perfect, meaning it's maybe 85% there or something like that, if it contains one or two great lines, especially in the first line, which is so important for the reasons we just said about people being very quick to skip songs, then it's very important to have those killer lines sprinkled throughout the song, so lines that people remember and say, oh, what's that? This is brilliant. I wish I could have said it like that. So if you have a few lines like that in your song, then that's better than having everything sort of tightly written, but nothing that stands out. And so I hope that that makes sense. So this is probably as much theory as we're going to cover today, because it's not supposed to be a hugely long, dry lecture. But I just wanted to give you this as a kind of foundation for what's to come. Because if you just jump into lyrics and just like that, then I think it's going to be a little bit too sudden. So let's see what we can do next. Maybe we can start our trawl through the archives today with a song called All of Me by John Legend. And what I've done is I've modified the lyrics a little bit just to show you what happens if we don't write properly, meaning we don't use proper rhyming conventions, and we also write in a way that's very matter of fact, right? So let's see. I'm gonna switch over now to the next screen, and so here we can see that things are quite straight, right? So when you just read it, let's just take a minute to read it, to take it in. Just gonna wait for you. Right? So everything that needs to be said is being said. So you get the meaning really nicely. But what happens if I now scroll down, and I just need to reach one of my many apps that I have going here. And right, so this is now scrolling, which is great. And this is the original lyric. So you can see, like here, it rhymes in the first two lines. Right. So what would I do without your smart mouth drawing me in and you kicking me out? Right. That rhymes. And then can't pin you down, and then mind and ride, all this rhymes. Okay, so if you just have a look here, and then here, what would I do without your powers of speech? And then drawing me in, you're making my life difficult, that doesn't rhyme. And then we have can't keep you down, and mind, and you, and it's just, there's less rhyming. And it's also less imagery as well, right? It's not as poetic. And so this brings us to something else I wanted to talk about today. Again, a day like today, Valentine's Day, lends itself to this kind of thing. It's important to find the right medium between poetic language and prosaic language. So that means that the kind of languages you read in newspapers or maybe self-help books or something like that, which is basically straight to the point, tells it like it is. And then you have poetry, which is of course an arty, exalted version of it. And songwriting is neither. Songwriting is in the middle, if you like, between prose on the one hand, matter of fact, speech-like conversational words or language, and poetry, so very flowery language, on the other side. And as songwriters, we have to find a middle ground, and that middle ground is something I call songwriterese. Right, I'm just going to switch to a different setting here, so because now I'm just going to talk about something a bit more general. So now I'm back with you here. So basically, when we write songs, we can categorize the words that we're gonna use in our songs 3 different ways, and I call those categories safe words. So safe words are words like you, I, me, tonight, baby, why, and so forth. Words you can always use in a song. And then the next category I call soft words. And soft words are words like love, embrace, hope, dream, kiss, miss, and so forth. And then we have adventurous words, right? So adventurous words would be like cosmos, I don't know, aeroplane, or genie in a bottle, or radioactive, fireworks, like we already mentioned. So those would be the kinds of words that we would sprinkle over our lyric. So our lyric shouldn't be full of those words, but it should contain some of those words. And that way, we make sure that the listener always finds the interesting nuggets of language that they're interested in, that excite them, that makes them stop what they're doing. And with soft words, we have to be careful, because if there are too many of them, then it's going to sound old-fashioned, and we're going to see examples of that in a minute. And then sometimes we have a lyric that is, well, nearly all safe words, right? Those are the kind of cliched lyrics which nobody really wants, because it's been said before. And of course, most words that you would use in songwriting would be safe words, right? Because you can't have all of them be adventurous, and then it would be very, very difficult to convey any sort of meaning with your songs. But so it's got to be the right mixture. So that depends on your taste, and of course on the subject matter, your writing style, your audience, and the artist you're working for, or the artist that you are. So it's difficult to put some kind of percentage on it. So maybe it'd be 65% safe words, and then 25% soft words. Maybe that's too much. Maybe 20% soft words and 15% adventurous words, something like that. It could be different, depends on the song, like I said. But it's good to have an awareness of how you can categorize words. And when you read through your lyrics after maybe having written the first draft, you can then have a quick look and see whether you've got the percentage about right. Okay, and let's go back now to Mr. Legend and have a look at another version that I've prepared. Let me see whether this works. Yeah, so again, we've kept this as quite sort of matter of fact. And see, you're making me homeless instead of kicking me out, right? And you have other words like love your curves and all your edges, all your really strange features, right? This is a bit weird. It doesn't rhyme, and it's just not as poetic as what we have in the real chorus, which is love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections, right? So, because that also has wordplay, which is also a very important currency that we have as songwriters, is opposites, right? Perfect imperfections. So when before we had something like all your really strange features, which is probably true, right? Or character traits. That's what the writer wanted to say. But perfect imperfections is just so much better, right? And that's what we need to keep in mind. There's always a better way of saying the same thing. So it's good to write quickly, and I call that black and white writing, or dummy writing, where say I'm starting from a melody. I may be writing very, very quickly to determine whether my melody is good enough, whether the whole song has legs, so to speak. But later on, once I've determined that yes, it's good enough and my basic lyrical theme works with the mood of the music, then I will of course do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drafts and really go to town and make it better. Get that proportion right between safe, soft and adventurous words, and also get that mixture between poetry and prose right as well. And I've coined a term for that middle ground, and that is songwriterese. Right? So songwriterese, like say Chinese or Portuguese, it is a language, and it is a language that we need to learn, because if we don't speak it, then, well, we're going to have great trouble writing meaningful and successful songs, because either what we say is too conversational, too mundane, too everyday, or it's going to be too poetic, which means it reads really nicely on the page, right? But it does not sound or look like a proper song, like we've just seen in the examples that we had here with All of Me. Right, so now we're going to do, just going to have a, we have the original version here, we're just going to have a quick listen and to see how it works with the music. And so for that I just need to play the music, have it lined up, so let's see whether this works.
What would I do without your smart mouth, drawing me in and you kicking me out? You got my head spinning, no kidding, I can't pin you down. What's going on in that beautiful mind? I'm on your magical mystery ride, and I'm so dizzy, don't know what hit me, but I'll be alright. My head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind, 'cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning, 'cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh, how many times do I have to tell you?
Okay, so I think this is enough for educational purposes. You can see how well, you can hear how well the lyrics fit together with the melody and the chords and the whole mood. To me, this is one of the best, certainly the best romantic songs written in the last few years. And it also has a certain modern edge to it, right? It's not just soft, soft, soft. And that's something to keep in mind when we look at the next song. And so I'm just going to load that up. And that song here is a very old song by Rod Stewart. Have I told you lately that I love you? And so let's have a quick listen to that.
Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you? Fill my heart with gladness, take away all my sadness, ease my troubles, that's what you do. the morning sun in all its glory greets the day with hope and comfort too. You fill my life with laughter, and somehow you make it better. Ease my troubles, that's what you do. There's a love that's divine, and it's yours and it's mine, like the sun. And at the end of the day, we should give thanks and praise to the one, to the one.
Okay, so you could easily tell the difference between the song we just looked at, the John Legend song, and the Rod Stewart song here. If you just look at the first two lines, have I told you lately that I love you, which is great, of course. Have I told you there's no one else above you, right? So for anyone who's been writing songs for any length of time, we always come up against that problem of what to rhyme with love, and of course there aren't many words. There's dove, and there's glove, and above, of course. So you have three options. And so here, right in the first line, say, okay, love you, above you, we're going to rhyme it, what is called perfect rhyming, okay? And so that is quite old-fashioned right off the bat, right? And then it goes on in the next line, gladness and sadness, right? Another sort of perfect rhyme. Of course, what do you rhyme with sadness or gladness? Madness, maybe. All right, that would have been a little bit edgier, but you can see, like, it's old-fashioned songwriting. Okay, it doesn't mean you can't do it today, but I think you should mix things up and make things a little bit more street and a little bit more edgy. Right, that's why I like the songs about your smart mouth, with all of me, your smart mouth, and kicking me out, and perfect imperfections, and all of those things. It's not all fluffy clouds, right? So look here, for the morning sun, right on cue. For the morning sun is all its glory, greets the day, hope and comfort, right? So we have all those soft words: laughter, better, ease, divine, sun, pray. It's like an explosion of soft words, right? Again, for a day like today, we're all excused. It's a very romantic day. But in general terms, for modern songwriting, I think it needs to be just more streetwise, more conversational, more current. And so you can have romantic words, but we don't want them to be as fluffy as this. Right. So what we can do is maybe look at a few more songs, maybe not listen to them all. Let's see what I've got prepared. Let's now we looked at two love songs, and maybe we should look at a song that is a little bit different. Let's look at Firework. And I just want you to read through it, to scan through it quite quickly. Like this. Let's go slowly back so you get an impression. Obviously, I suppose most of you, if not all of you, know the song, but maybe you haven't heard it in a little while. So what can you say about this? The kinds of words that are being used in this song. Just looking at the first line, do you ever feel like a plastic bag? Right? What do you think? Is that safe? Is it soft? Or is it adventurous? right? Now, of course, you may have a fourth category. You may say is silly. Like, how can you open a song with the word plastic bag? That's fair enough. But if you said adventurous, then that's what I would have said as well, right? You don't find a word like plastic bag in a song. And so very different from the last song, the Rod Stewart song we listened to, right? So look at the words: drifting, paper thin, house of cards, caving in, 6 feet under, spark, ignite. Right? These are all words that we don't find every day in pop songs, and therefore this makes this a very exciting lyric, a very sort of young lyric, something that tries to do something new. Right? And then of course, it's not a romantic song, right? So it's not an impersonal song, a song that doesn't move people, but it's a different category of song, right? So what could we call this? I suppose we could call it empowerment, right? So something that uplifts people, right? Gives them hope. And with these kind of songs, it's really easy to turn it into some kind of preachy rant, right? So you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to pick yourself up. Don't look back, and pointing the finger and giving advice, right, straight out of a self-help book. But that's not a very very good way of doing it, right? It's a heavy-handed, unsubtle way of doing it. This kind of preachy, like a lecturer's kind of way of talking at somebody, right? Here, it's much more conversational. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again? So it starts with a question, which is a great starter for a song, and it implies that the writer has already experienced something like that. So it's not some kind of psychology lecturer telling somebody how to behave, but it's like a friend talking to another friend. You know, do you ever feel like that as well? Do you ever feel like a plastic bag just drifting through the wind aimlessly, right, without having any power, right? And that is what I call songwriterese, or perfect songwriterese. It's rich in imagery, it's got new words, it's saying something, but it's saying it in a way that's fun, that's exciting and dynamic, right? So to me, this is a model pop song in many other ways as well. Maybe we'll come back to it sort of later on in the coming weeks to look at other aspects like the melody, for example, or the production. But today we're focusing on lyrics, and I think there is enough to take away from this already. Right? Just look at the lines. If really there's spark, right, like the word says. And of course, in the title of Firework, which is great, it's dynamic, like we already said, and it just explodes off the page. And the music, of course, is very exciting and uplifting as well. Right, so there we have the category of an empowerment song. And so next thing I want to look at is a song like this, Viva La Vida by Coldplay. By the way, I'm getting all those lyrics here from a site called AZ Lyrics, which is my favorite site because the format is nicely center aligned and it's got no weird pop-ups, right? At least today we haven't had a pop-up. Of course, right as I say this, it's probably going to be something streaming across the screen, but so far so good. And it's also well edited, right? So I've got some of my own lyrics on there, and it's usually they're correct, right? Those other lyrics of mine that have appeared on there is somebody wrote something about a mountain of ice cream, right? Which I certainly have never written a song about ice cream, but that's how the maybe foreign editors or contributors heard it, and that's what is on the page of many of those other lyrics sites. So AZ Lyrics I recommend. And let's just not analyze this too deeply, but just get an impression of the kind of language that is being used here. Right. So, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure what this song is about, right? So, I could understand with Rod Stewart or John Legend or Katy Perry, but this song, I'm not sure what it's about, right? Maybe somebody who's seen better times, which would be, I think, I suppose, a good subject matter, right? But the important thing here is that Coldplay are an indie band, a successful indie band, of course, but they're still a band and a rock band, and different rules apply, right? They're not trying to write the perfect pop song here. They are writing the kind of lyrics that their fans expect, which are full of weird imagery, many layers of meaning that the listener has to decipher by themselves, and that is the main principle behind those lyrics, is that you don't want to give too much away too soon. You want to leave something to the imagination so that the fan or the music listener can discover something, whereas pop songs, they normally have to work first time. So again, all of we've been saying today about writing in songwriterese, this is also dependent on the music genre that you're operating in. And therefore, you have to modify the things I've said today with the category or genre that you're working in. So if you're working in pop, then everything that I said today is 100% true, if you like. If you're working in other styles like indie music or rock music, then you want to be a little bit more vague, right? And those kind of differences we're going to talk about again in later episodes. But I just wanted to give you a flavor today where we had those very succinct lyrics to start with, especially the first two. And now we're moving into a category which is a lot more vague and obscure. Still great, of course, but it's not immediately obvious what the lyric is about. And that makes it a better lyric for the fans of this band. Right, now let's go back to pop music. And what shall we do? We could go to a song that is more positive in terms of romance, and we could go to a song that's more negative because it's about a breakup. Because let's face it, most successful love songs are about breakups, right? Because they tend to be more dramatic, and it's also easier to write about something tragical than it is to write about something happy or comical. Every screenwriter in Hollywood would probably confirm that. It's much easier to write a sob story than it is to write something that is truly light and funny. And so, what shall we do? I suppose we could look at... let's just look at a breakup song now. And let's just use something very modern that was released this year or at the end of last year. Right. So this is a song called... Oh, it's okay. So let's look at another song quickly, right? Because it had some naughty words in there. So, Someone You Loved, which was number one in the US and I believe in the UK as well, and by Lewis Capaldi. And let's just have a look and let's see what kind of words are being used and whether it's easy to get the message straight away. suppose we could also have a listen to it as well.
I'm going on during this time. I feel there's no one to save me. This all and nothing really got away. You're driving me crazy. I need somebody to hear, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pulled the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. I'm going under, and this time I feel there's no one to turn to.
Okay, so let's just scroll through the lyric one more time. And let's just have a look at the words very quickly. All right. So when you compare that with the Coldplay and the Katy Perry songs that we just listened to, I suppose the first thing that you would say is that there aren't too many adventurous words in there, right? So it looks all pretty plain and normal. Okay, so the first word that we have here is, suppose, bleeds and nightfall, and then you have pull the rug, and I think that's pretty much it, right? All the other words are either safe words or soft words like heal, right? So that's interesting. So that also goes to show that those percentages I gave you earlier are not set in stone. Right? It depends a little bit on what you have going, what else you have going as well. Again, this is something we're going to explore in later episodes, but it depends what the music is doing as well. So the music here is being very emotional. The singing, everything is very, very emotional, and so sometimes those simple words that are not trying to be too complicated work better with that kind of melody, and that sort of certainly happened here, right? So to put many more layers of meaning on top of this melody, this song, I don't think it would have made the song worse. And maybe there was an earlier version where there were more interesting and adventurous words, and then he decided, or the co-writers decided, to just leave it like this. Yeah, keep it simple, keep everything pure. Right. So, but as you can see, it's very, very emotional. And from the title, "Someone You Loved," you can see it's a breakup song. It's a sad song, and it works really well on many levels. Right, let's now look at another song that is a few years older. Let's say about 30 years older, and that's this song here, "Nothing Compares to You," sung by Sinead O'Connor and written by Prince. And then we can just have a quick listen. This is going to be the last song of the day, I suppose, and have a quick listen, and then we can compare the two songs after.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away. I go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away. Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I
Right. So it starts out as a different way, right? It's very specific, 7 hours and 15 days, which is of course very telling, right? So this person here is actually counting the hours, right? That's how much it means to them. And then fancy restaurant is obviously that you don't have that every day in a pop song. The other words are safe words, right? There's nothing like a bird without a song, maybe, right? And then you have the doctor here, which is a bit unusual. But again, it's a simple song, and it's not overloaded with fancy imagery and some kind of clever wordplay and writing fireworks. So this, I think, is again another really good example of powerful emotional writing that speaks to people. Nothing compares to you. Like in the title, straight away you can see what the song is about. You don't have to guess it. Again, with songs like Viva la Vida, you think, well, what is that, right? But this is very clear cut, and yes, obviously it was a massive hit. Right. What I want to do now is just sum up our snippet from the formula one more time before we go. So what we want to write lyrics that move the listener is a unique title with a compelling concept that answers the question, so what? Which again is a brutal question, but it's so important to be able to answer that question with ease, right? And then we have professional, natural rhymes and imagery, not too little, not too much. Like we just said, we just listened to some very natural sounding songs, right? But they were still professional, of course. And then a believable, emotional, personal tone. You could also say universal, relatable, all of those good things. It's very important. Vulnerable, maybe another word you could use here. And then at least one memorable word or line. So in that last song, it's been 7 hours and 15 days, right? To me, that's memorable, right? That's really hard to forget, that line. In terms of breakup songs, I think it's a classic line, right? Or the line with the plastic bag, right? Immediately memorable. And yes, so this is our little summary. And let's just go back so you can see me on the big screen before we go. And if you have any questions at all, then you can drop me a line on my email address here, alexvonsoos@songwando.com. So Songwando is the name of my songwriting course that I teach, and then I get those little nuggets from that I'm showing you here. And of course, you may be interested in that. You may be really ambitious and serious as a songwriter, because if you're not, then what I'm teaching, at least the course proper, is probably going to be overkill for you. But if you are serious about songwriting, if you want to make headway, maybe want to make a career out of it, or if you already started a career and just want to get ahead more quickly, then I can certainly help you with that. So just get in touch. And of course, if you are looking to study other musical or production skills, then the Garnish Music Production School is a great place of doing it. A great boutique school with some cracking instructors. And so whatever it may be, Logic or Ableton or mixing or sound design, everything is going to be covered. But for me, I deal in the currency of songwriting, which to me is the most exciting thing, although I love mixing as well and all the other things. But when you don't have a great song, there isn't really anything to produce or mix, right? It's not worth it. So that's why I always make sure that the song, the title, the concept, the melody, the chords, the basic arrangement, that all of that is above board, that is exciting, that it stands up. And then then I'm in business as a writer. Okay, so this is it for today's episode. I'm Alex von Soos, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you very soon.